Okay, guys, I want to run through this 910 Reteach worksheet really quickly as well. I put together that other 910 video for you, so I'm going to explain a little bit about why this is different. In the other one, and part of that's because I want to talk about some of the vocabulary. In the other one, I talk about doing something that I call deconstructing into an improper fraction. That is different than decomposing, okay? So you don't necessarily need to remember this, but when I talk about deconstructing, and I say deconstructing into an improper fraction. What I mean is breaking apart a mixed number and turning it back into a fraction where the numerator is greater than the denominator. And that's something that we don't want to see. So when I say deconstructing, what I mean is breaking apart. So I'm breaking apart something. And the only time that I would do that is in a situation like, say, this problem down here, where you have 4 3/10 minus 2 9/10. Now, 9/10. Now, I say that because here, let me give you an example here. 4 3/10 minus 2 9/10. That is because your numerator here is less than your numerator over here. You cannot subtract those two. Now, there are a number of ways of doing this, and they're talking about using decomposing, and that is one really good way of doing it. The method I like using, because I'm used to it and I think it's pretty easy, is to turn it back into an improper fraction. And an improper fraction, like I said, is one in which the numerator is greater than the denominator. Typically, we want to turn those into mixed numbers. So to get back to one, you would take your whole number, multiply it by your denominator. So in this case, 4 times 10, and that's going to give us 40. Add your numerator, which is 3. Now you're going to end up with 43, but you want to keep the same denominator. So it's 43 minus 10. Now we would do the same thing with the second one. 2 times 10. Okay, now 2 times 10 is going to equal 20. Add the numerator, which is 9, and you end up with 29. So then you end up with 29 over 10. Then you would just have to take 43 minus 29. Let's borrow here. End up with 14. Then you end up with 14 over 10. 10 goes into 14 how many times? One time. And then what's left? What's 14 minus 10? Right? You end up with 4 tenths. So that's one way of figuring that one out. And we'll talk about another way. But this is what I'm talking about when I talk about improper, turning back into an improper fraction. So that would be this. Something where the numerator, that number is too big. It's bigger than the denominator. So that's an improper fraction. Now, when they talk about decomposing, which is right here, this is something I do want you to remember because you're going to see this a lot. Decomposing means you're taking a mixed number, so something like this one, and you're going to break the number into the sum of two or more parts. In this case, they showed us that 3 3/8 is the same as 3 plus 3/8. Okay. Now you can also decompose a mixed number to find an equivalent mixed number. Now, equivalent, you guys know what that means? It means the same. It's something that's equal to something else. Mixed number are two mixed numbers that represent the same amount. Okay. So how would we do that? Now, we talked about this in the other video as well, and I showed this as an example of when you, say, have to take a whole number and try to subtract a fraction from it. In this case, that's not what they're showing us, but it's the same idea. So 3 3/8, this is how we would want to see a mixed number, right? You have your smaller numerator and your greater denominator. Now, the other thing that you can do here, though, is you could say, well, we know that 3, it means that there are 3 wholes. So 2, if you broke it down more, you decomposed it, 2 and 8/8 is the same thing because 8/8 is 1. So 2 plus 8/8 would be 3. Okay, so we're also going to look at the associative property. This is something that we talked about last week as well. You guys have heard it a few times. We're talking about changing the grouping. Okay, changing how we group up the numbers that we're working with here. So we already know that we talked about 8/8, right? Right up here. So what do we do here, though? What do we do to find out what's supposed to be in this blank section here? Well, we do what's in the parentheses first, right? So 8 plus 3 equals 11. 11/8. Now, because the numerator is greater than the denominator, you have what we traditionally call an improper fraction. Okay. Now that is also the same as 2 and 11/8. Okay. So, which again, just to show you one more time, is also the same thing as 3 and 3/8, which is the proper way to write a mixed number. Okay, so you can subtract 3 and 3/8 minus 1 and 5/8 by decomposing and writing 3 and 3/8 as an equivalent mixed number. Subtract the fraction part and then subtract the whole numbers. Okay, so what are they showing us right here? What are they showing us in this section right here?
One eternity later.
Okay, so look back up to what we did up here at the top, right? So we know what they're looking for right here is that it's the same as 2 and 11/8. Now they're asking us to subtract here, right? Now it looks like what they're asking us to do is take 2 and 11/8 minus 1 and 5/8. Now 1 and 5/8 does equal 1 and 5/8. But what we're going to do here is take the 11 minus 5. Those are our numerators. And what do you end up with? 6, which means 6/8. And then we're going to take our whole numbers here and subtract those. Now you're going to end up with 1 and 6/8. And that is your answer for that one. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave the rest of these for you guys to work out. I do want to see what you come up with here. I think you're pretty comfortable with the decomposing. So let's see what you can do. But I hope this was helpful, and please do let me know if you have any questions. Okay.